Hello guys, and welcome to another HTML and CSS project tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to create this simple website using only HTML and CSS. So here on the navbar we have our logo, we have some navigation menus with some cool hover effects, we have our sign in and then our register button right here. On the left side we have this headline. We have our call to action buttons with some cool box shadow hover effects. And here on the right side, we have this cool animation going on with this gentleman right here. Okay, and I am going to show you how to create this using only HTML and CSS. So let's get started. Now here in my project folder, I have this image. That is what we are going to use. I'm going to leave a link in the description for that. Next, I'm going to create my HTML file. So index.html. I'm also going to create my style sheet. So style.css. This is going to be my CSS file. I'm going to leave a link for all these, the source code, and then a live demo as well for the website. Now let's open this project in our text editor. I'm going to use VS Code. So I'm going to open this in VS Code. And we have our project right here. Now I'm using some extensions. I'm using Emmet, which actually comes with VS Code. So if you are using VS Code, you don't have to install that. You can search it in Atom or any other text editor you are using. I'm also using Preview on web server, okay? And this is actually going to help me preview my website on my default browser without having to reload every single time. Okay, so with Emmet in my HTML file, I'm just going to do exclamation tab. And I'm going to get this HTML skeleton or template. Now in the title, I'm going to say how to create a website using HTML and CSS. That is my title. Now let's link our style sheet. Okay, so I'm going to do link, and then I'm going to link my style sheet, which is style.css. And I'm doing these shortcuts with Emmet. Okay, now we are going to start with our navbar. Okay, but first let me open this in my browser, my default browser. So I'm going to right click and then launch on browser. All right, so we have this side by side. We are going to start with our navbar. So I'm going to say nav, and this is actually an HTML5 semantic tag. And inside my navbar, I'm going to have everything inside a container. I'm going to have my logo in an H2, and that is just going to say company. From here we are going to have our navigation menus. Okay, so I'm going to put them inside a UL unordered list. Inside our unordered list, we are going to have our list items, and inside each list item we are going to have an anchor, okay, a link tag. The first one is going to be home. The next is going to be about. We are going to have services. We are going to have portfolio. And then lastly, we are going to have contacts as well. Those are our navigation menus. Next, on the right side, remember we had our sign in and our register button as well. So those are going to be anchor tags that will be going nowhere. So our sign in and then our register. And this register is actually going to have a class of btn primary to make it a button. Okay, we are going to style a class of btn primary, and that is going to make this a button. So that is all for our navbar markup. Now let's head to the CSS and style this. Now in CSS, we have some default styles with our margins, our patterns, and our borders and all that. So we are going to remove those using this. So what I'm saying here is everything inside our browser. Okay, I'm going to make the margin 0. The pattern is going to be 0 as well. Outline is going to be 0. I'm going to make the border none. There is going to be no borders unless we set it ourselves. We are going to remove the text decoration. Okay, the text decoration is these underlines we have here. So text decoration should be none. And we are going to remove our list style. So let me show you real quick what the list style is. You see these bullets right here, we are going to remove that. So I'm just going to say list style should be none as well, and those are gone. Now for the body, just going to change the font family to Mont Serif, and that is a sans serif font. So we should see that change right here. I actually have Mont Serif installed in my system. That is why I can use it directly. But if you don't have that, you can go to Google Fonts. So Google Fonts, and you can get Mont Serif. Okay, you can get that from here. Mont Serif. You search and then you can select any that you want. So we have the light, which is 300 font weight. We have regular 400 font weight. So you can just select them and then you can import it. Okay, so you can import it right here. You just select this, you copy, and then you come back to your project and you can import it right here. Let me let me paste it at the top, and that should work. Okay, so if you don't have Monserrat installed in your system, that's how you should do it. But I have it installed. I'm just going to remove that. Now let's move on to our nav. Okay, our nav bar. So nav, that is the tag we gave it. This is what we are styling. Let's give it a width of 100%. Let's give it a background of black, which is 000. That is the hex code for black. I'm going to give it a fixed height of 4.6 rem, and I'm going to text transform everything to uppercase. Okay, so everything is going to be uppercase inside our nav. Font size, I'm going to change that to 0.86 rem, and I'm going to display grid so that I can place our container, which is the direct child of our nav bar. Our nav, this is the container, and that is a direct child of this nav. So I'm going to put it right in the middle. So first I'm going to display grid so that I can place items to the center. Okay, so let me show you that real quick. So nav container, I'm going to give it a background of coral, and you should see it right in the middle. All right, so for the container, I'm going to give it a width of 86%. So it's going to be 86% of this navbar, which is the parent. I'm going to display flex, and that is going to put the direct items side by side horizontally. I'm going to justify content, and this is flexbox. Okay, this is CSS flexbox. It helps us align things very easily. Okay, so with justify content, I'm going to say space between, and it's going to put an even space between these elements. Let me see. I think I have a problem. Let me put these anchor tags inside a div. So I'm going to put that here. Let me put that inside this div. Let me align items to the center as well so that they are vertically centered. inside the container. Nice. Now I can remove this background. I don't need it. I'm going to change all the anchor tags, all these links. I'm going to change the color. Okay, so color is going to be white, and this is the hex code for white. And I'm going to have some hover effects. Okay, whenever we hover over these links, I'm going to have the colors change. So transition, we are going to do some transition here. Transition, I'm going to say 300 milliseconds is okay. So on hover, which is hover, I'm going to change the color to this hex code, which is FF4800. Okay, so on hover we should have this smooth effect, and it's smooth because of this transition that we gave it. If I should remove this or comment this out, it's going to be very sharp, and we don't want that. Okay, we don't want this sharp effect. That is why I'm giving it this smooth hover effect. So all our anchor tags are going to have this hover effect. Now remember, we put our logo inside an H2. Okay, we put our logo inside an H2 here. So we are going to change the color to this color as well. So now H2, I'm going to change the color to this hex code. Let me copy and then paste. So that is our logo. Now let's move on to this. Let's put all of them side by side. So now UL and all the direct list items are going to be side by side. So I'm going to display flex on that. Perfect. And I'm going to put a gap between them. So gap to rem, so that there's some space between them. Now let's move on to this side. Okay, so now right, for that we are going to display flex. We are going to align items to the center. So we have some space between them. Now let's style this register. Okay, it should be a button. Remember, we gave it a class of btn and btn primary. Okay, so we are going to do that. So for everything with a class of btn, give it a padding of 0.8 rem for the top and bottom, and 2 rem for the left and right. Border radius is going to be 2 rem, and the border, we are going to give it a border of 1 pixel solid black. Okay, so we have a black border right there, but we can't see it because it's on a black background as well. Now for the btn primary, so anything with the class of btn primary, let's give it a background of this color, and the border is going to be none. But on hover, you see we have this color fade because it's changing back to the same background color, right? So on hover, we are going to change the color to white as well. So color should be white on hover. So now it doesn't fade. I'm going to give this a background of 000, which is black. So on hover, it should give us a black background. But with this btn, okay, for every button, the hover is going to have a box shadow of 0 on the x-axis, 1 rem on the y-axis, 1 rem for the blur, and an RGBA 255 for the red, 72 for the green, 0 for the blue, and an alpha of 0.2. So we should have some hover effects, a box shadow hover effects. It's not very visible because this value is very low. Let me increase this to 0.8. Now you should see the box shadow on hover. Okay, I'm going to change this back to 0.2. Let me actually make this 0.3. All right, so we have that box shadow. Perfect. Now let's move on to the main section. For this section, I'm going to have everything inside the main tag, and this is actually an HTML5 semantic tag. And we are going to have a left and a right. Okay, the right section is going to be the background animation with the image, and the left section is going to be the content. Okay, so the headline or the heading with the call to action buttons. All right, so let's first have, we are going to put everything here inside a content class, a div with a class of content, and we are going to have our h1. That is our h1. We are going to have our call to action buttons as well, which are anchor tags that are going nowhere, but they are going to have a class of btn. The first one is going to have a class of btn and btn primary, and that is going to say let's talk. The next is also going to have a btn class without a btn primary, and that is also going to say recent portfolio. All right, let's save, and we have this. And these styles are automatically kicking in because we have them already. Okay, so we have this btn and btn primary classes styled already. That is why they automatically kick in. We are going to change this color, okay, so that it's black. Okay, so that we have some contrast with the white background. Now for the right side, we are going to have an outer circle. Okay, so a div with a class of outer circle, and inside that we are going to have another div with a class of inner circle. It is going to have a sibling, which is going to be the container for the image, so a sibling of person, and that is going to have the image, so img, and I'm going to select the image right there. So that is what we have. Now for the main section, I'm going to display grid, and the grid template columns is going to be 44% for the left and then 56 for the right. Okay, so 56%. I'm going to give it a height of 100 viewport height. Perfect. Now let's move on to the left side, so main left. I'm going to display grid as well and place items. I'm going to place items to the center. Okay, so the direct child, which is this content, this right here, is going to be exactly in the middle of the left side. Now let's move on to the content. Let's give it a width of 60%. Now the h1 inside the content, okay, so the headline or the heading, let me style that. So I'm going to increase the font size. So font size, I'm going to give that a font size of 3.6 rem. The line height is going to be 1.1. Now the call to action buttons, we give that a class of CTA, call to action. Yeah, these are what we are going to style. The call to action buttons, I'm just going to push them down, so margin top of 5 rem. Let's see the results. So they are down. Okay, they are down 5 rems. Now the links inside the call to action buttons, so CTA, and the links, I'm going to give them a padding. So the top and bottom is going to have 1.2 rem, the left and right is going to have 2 rem. Okay, so they are a little larger. Now let's change this color. Okay, this color, let's make that black. So the last child. This is a pseudo selector, last child. I'm going to change the color to black and give some space between the two buttons. So margin left is going to be 1.2 rem. So we have some space between them. Now let's move on to the right section. Okay, the right section, that circle with the animation and this image. Okay, we are going to resize this image and all that. So let's move on to that. So main, right, we are going to set the overflow to hidden so that we don't have that long scroll. I'm going to position this relative as well because we are going to have some absolute positions inside it. Now for the animation, that's the circle changing colors. So main, right, outer circle. Remember we gave it a class of outer circle. That is what we are going to style. We are going to give it a width of 100 rem, height of 100 rem as well. We are going to give it that orange background. So that is going to be this. Let's make it a circle. So border radius 50%. I'm going to display grid so that I can place items to the center. So we are going to have a white circle. That's the inner circle is going to be white, and that is going to be exactly in the middle or the center. That is why we have to do grid. We have to display grid and then place items to the center. You are going to understand real soon. Let me position this absolute, and from the top is going to be -5 rem. Okay, so it's going to be pushed from the top. It's going to be under this navbar. All right, so that is what we have. Now let's do the animation. Okay, so for that I'm going to create a keyframe. Okay, so keyframes, and this is going to, I'm going to name it animate outer circle. That is the name for it. And here I will just say to filter hue rotate, and it's going to rotate 360 degrees. Okay, now let me explain this real quick. So all I'm doing right here is changing the hue, okay, of this color, of this background color, this orange color. I'm just going to rotate the hue. So let's see what hue is. Okay, so this is the hue scale. So at 0 degrees the hue is red. Okay, at 60 degrees is about yellow, around yellow. We have green around this side and all that. So all I'm doing with this code here is that I'm changing the hue for the background. Okay, so I'm going to link that to this. So here I'm going to say animation, animate outer circle. That is the name of the animation, right? And this is going to take 15 seconds to animate. I'm going to say ease for the timing function, and this animation should be infinite. Okay, so you see our outer circle changing color. Okay, so the background for outer circle is going to change color. All right, you can actually change this to 180 and that should work as well. Okay, and that should be fine. Okay, so let's continue to the inner circle. So main, right, the inner circle of 55 rem. You can change these values, height of 55 rem as well. Let's give it a background of white, which is the same background as the body background. I'm going to give it a border radius of 50%. Okay, so that is it. And this display grid and place items should work, but it's not working because there are two children inside the outer circle. So we have this inner circle, which is a child of the outer circle, and we have this person div as well. So if I should take this out, which is the person div, if I should take that out, we should have the inner circle right in the middle of the outer circle, right? But what I'm going to do in the CSS is for the person, okay, for the person, that's the div with the class of person, I'm going to position that absolute. I'm going to position that absolute, and then I'm going to make the weight. I'm going to change the weight to 50%. It's already positioned absolute, so from the top it should come down 6 rem. Okay, so it should be 6 rem from the top, and from the left 0, and we should have our image where exactly we want it. Our image is a little too big, so I'm going to change the size. Our image should be 100%. The width of the image should be 100% the width of the parent. Okay, so it should take this width, and now we should have our image perfectly. All right. I think there is a problem here with the scroll bar. Okay, this main section has a height of 100 viewport height. Okay, that is the height of the screen, and we already have a height for this nav. So what I'm going to do is subtract this height from this main, okay, this main section height. So let's go to the main section. This is the main section, and we give it a height of 100 viewport height, but I'm going to calculate the 100 viewport height minus the height of the nav bar, which is, I think, 4, where is it? Okay, so the height here is 4.6 rem. So I'm going to subtract that from the height here, and now we should have our scroll bar gone. Okay, so that is all for the project. All right, so that is all for this project. Thanks for watching. Check out my channel for more projects just like this. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.